Hi everyone, this is Darren with SimNation. Tonight is the beginning of the 2059 season for WWPF, which is our Draft Day Sports Pro Football League here at SimNation. The offseason has finally settled, the rosters are locked, and we are staring at what may be one of the most exciting seasons in league history. Today we're doing it all. We're going to break down the absolute heavyweights in both the AFC and NFC, look at some of the game-changing superstars in the league, and predicting what the playoff bracket may look like all the way to the 2059 WWPF Championship. So go ahead and buckle in. It'll be an interesting ride. We'll start for once in the AFC. We normally start in the NFC, but I'd like to go ahead and kind of flip that script a little bit. So let's start in kind of the AFC East. So AFC East has seen a lot of changes this offseason. Buffalo got a coach, and of course you still have Soa at Miami, you have Kev at New York, and you have Shark at New England, and you throw Curtis in at Buffalo, and you've got what is the makings of a really, really wide open division. So the Jets offense, for those not familiar with it, is built around the statistical juggernaut known as Marvin Herman, the former University of Maryland quarterback, who has an obscene ability to score points and keep his team ahead of the other team in any type of really fast-paced, wide-open game. They only got better on offense. They signed Leroy London out of Pittsburgh. The former Michigan running back chose to leave Pittsburgh during the offseason, mostly because Pittsburgh couldn't pay for him. And he's now yet another tool in the arsenal that Kev has. So just going to kind of give a little bit of a spoiler. I think Kevin's going to make it very, very far within the season and into the playoffs. Miami's back as well, and you got Soa, who has reloaded the Dolphins after what probably is a little bit of a disappointing season for him. But they went out and got a quarterback in Matthews, who of course is a rookie, but he is a very, very solid rookie. So it'd be interesting to see whether he starts over Witten. I could see a ward where he does, because he's got a lot of upside to him, and you can really use the wide receivers that Miami has to open up the field and allow Miami to kind of control that clock. Soa is a little bit more of a defensive coach at times, who values the runs. He plays a similar style to what you see at Pittsburgh, and he's got a really good running back in Farrell, who brings strength, elite speed, and solid hands. On defense, he's got a really good defense. So whereas Kev's probably going to light up the scoreboard, does have a decent defense, Soa's going to try to slow the games down and really try to let his defense take over. And if he's able to do that, Miami's going to go far. You have the Buffalo Bills. This is Curtis, of course. It's good to see Buffalo finally get a head coach. If only for the fact that they've had a lot of talent over the years, but no one really to maximize it. Keep a big eye on Tate. Tate is really one of those quarterbacks that can light up the scoreboard. He's got great accuracy, great intelligence, and of course he's got a really, really solid target in gold. So if he's able to find gold and they're able to break open those defensive coverages, I can see Buffalo putting up a lot of points. Curtis is a really good coach. He plays in the SNCFL as well. And he's got a line that is just going to be really, really good. In the offseason, he did a lot of moves in order to build out that defense. What you can see here is he's got people like Swanson. Ladnor is a game-changing talent who was the top pick. And it'll be exciting to watch him finally take the field and play. So look for some good things out of Buffalo, but I'm not really expecting Buffalo to make the playoffs, and that's no slight against Curtis. It's just he's probably in arguably one of the harder divisions. And then, of course, you have New England, who is coached by Shark, who is looking to get back into the picture. They've had a really down cycle over the last season or two. And as a result of that, it's kind of made it possible where he could go back and really start stocking up on some talent. Now, this will be the annual, Darren isn't a big fan of Shank conversation, his quarterback, but he does have a elite running back in LaFleur, he's almost legendary in agility, great speed, solid hands. He's got good wide receivers with Clark. And then on the defensive side of the ball, he's got a lot of different players who will fly to the ball and should be able to disrupt the offenses. Right now, I think that two teams will come out of the AFC East into the playoffs. I think it's going to be New York and Miami, though. But do keep an eye on New England, because New England is a team that could quite easily make it there. Now, the CPU loves Baltimore. Every time I've done one of these and I kind of bounce the idea off of people like Gemini, Copilot, all the different AIs, they always come back and tell me Baltimore's going to win the division. And they'll tell you it's because of Burdick. Now, Burdick is a top-notch running back. You can see here he's 100, great agility, good speed, good hands. He's got strength. He definitely is someone that you can build around. But the reason why I don't think that Baltimore will actually be in the picture at all is because of the quarterback situation with McCracken. And also, while their defense is really, really solid, and they've got a lot of good pieces to it, they lack the elite speed that you're going to have in order to make the playoffs, especially in the North. Where you have Pittsburgh, you have Cleveland, you have Cincinnati. Cincinnati now, of course, has a human coach. Baltimore does not. So that's one of the reasons why I don't like them. If we look at Cincinnati real quick, though, Cincinnati is, of course, being coached by Starfinder now. They've got a decent team. Starfinder has made some moves in the offseason, getting Campbell from Carolina. That alone is a move that traditionally will push you to the top. And he's got some really good running backs that he can work with. I think the thing that really is going to keep Cincinnati out of the playoff race is just going to be they lack depth. The North is a bruising division. It's a ground and pound division, for want of a better word. And as a result of that, over time, that defense is just going to get worn down. So I think Cincinnati's going to have a really good season. I think Starfinder is going to be able to keep them in the playoff picture for most of the regular season. But when the dust settles, I don't think that they're going to be there. You have the defending AFC champion in Pittsburgh. Now, a lot of things have changed about Pittsburgh over the course of the offseason. Of course, their quarterback decided to leave. They lost London. They lost a lot of players, actually. But they look to have retooled, and really this season's going to come down to two things. How good is Jesse Payne, who was a big acquisition from the Steelers in the offseason? He was at Arizona before. He played for Simon. And how good will Durand be, who's the rookie out of Oklahoma State? If Durand has a good season and Payne cannot throw interceptions, I think that the Steelers are going to win the division. They probably have arguably the best defense in the entire division. And the Steelers are a defensive team who likes to use the run to keep their defense rested. Keep an eye on Newton, and definitely keep an eye on the other Newton, on Nelson, who is the Steelers' young free safety, who will probably start taking reps away from Asbury, who is a legend in the black and gold. Cleveland is, as always, is a wild card. Bio Eagle does a great job every season with restocking them. They do have McKnight, who is a phenomenal quarterback. He has the elite arm, elite accuracy, great intelligence. They've got a line that can generally protect him. But I think the problem that they're still going to run into in Cleveland is durability. Cleveland, over the course of the last few seasons, has been right there in the playoff mix each season. Bio has done a great job with building out that team. But as you can see here, they do have depth issues, especially at cornerback. And they also have some depth issues on the line. And I think that generally, if they start to get injuries, I think they're going to have issues. They're running a little bit light, if you will. So I don't see Cleveland making the playoffs. I think there's only going to be one team that makes it out of the AFC North, and that's going to be Pittsburgh. Now, the South has dramatically changed. There are now 3 coaches in the South, whereas we only had 2 before. It's going to get really, really interesting. I'm really excited to see what the 2 new coaches can do in addition to what Bama does at Tennessee. So you got Tony, who's at Indianapolis. You got Fedfan, who is at Houston. And Houston has been a team that has been a kind of a thorn in the side of Bama for a little bit. They always are competing. Indianapolis has been the league's essentially easy win team. I don't think that's going to happen anymore. I do think Tennessee's going to win the division. But I think that between Indianapolis and Houston, you're going to have one of those 2 teams make the playoffs. I don't think it's going to be Jacksonville. Jacksonville's still on CPU. They'll rely on the running game quite a bit. As you can see here, they do have a really good running back in Church, who's essentially able to exhaust defenses, and you need that in this division. But I think that they lack the defense in order to be able to really win the division. They don't have the speed. Tennessee, of course, is the team to beat in this division. Bama has done a phenomenal job with building this team out. So kudos to Bama year in and year out. Schaefer will be the guy again. He's also got Carey back at wide receiver. The reality about Tennessee and Bama is they're only going to go as far as their depth chart is able to support. Unfortunately, for the last 2 seasons, Bama's had some issues with injuries, which have kind of curtailed their success. So it'll be really interesting to see if they can stay healthy. If they can stay healthy, he is probably one of the teams to watch in the AFC. It's just I don't think that they'll be able to. They haven't been able to the last 2 seasons. So we'll watch that and see how it goes, but I do think that they'll win the division. The ultimate wild card in all of this, though, is the team that has traditionally been the one that we've made the most fun of, which is Indianapolis. Indianapolis is now coached by Tony. If you don't know Tony, he's a streamer. He knows his game very well. Well, he knows the college game very well. What I don't think he's truly realized yet is that the difference in game planning with college and pro is not as pronounced, other than the fact that there's some inequality between the offense and defense. He's made really, really good moves throughout the offseason. He does have Schneider, who was there when he got there. But as you can see, when you look at the rookies that they drafted, he had a really, really good offseason with bringing in talent. So he's got Hill, who's going to immediately slot in and be able to start on that defense. He brought in Fish, who is arguably one of the best wide receivers from the draft. He got a good kicker. He's done well with his defensive selections. Indianapolis is a wild card for me. I would keep an eye on him. I think that they can make the playoffs if he gets a good run. And then last but not least is the team that has upset quite a few teams over the course of the history. And the good news for Fedfan is he's walking into a team that is actually pretty decent. The only problem that he has, of course, that you'll see very quickly is he doesn't have the caliber of quarterback that he had, that the Texans had before he showed up. He is going to be operating a lot probably with Burnett, but you could also see Stanton play. He's got a solid running back in Bolin. He's got a solid line. He's in pretty good shape, but like when we talk about Tennessee, they're only going to go as far as their depth chart can support. They do have some really good players. You see here at free safety, they're kind of stacked. They have a good strong safety. But when you look at some of the other positions, they're maybe not as strong as they need to be to make a run into the playoffs. So it'll be interesting to see. So I think Tennessee and Indianapolis are the 2 teams to watch here. Keep an eye on Houston, though, because they can play the dark horse role and quite easily really disrupt people. When we look at the AFC West, all roads still lead through Oakland. It doesn't matter whether it's Peter or it's the CPU. Oakland essentially owns this division. And I don't really see that changing. They have probably one of the most explosive quarterbacks in Johnson, former Maryland quarterback as well. They have good depth. It'll be interesting to see how the CPU decides to play it this year, but they have Self out of Michigan, who is one of the best running backs in the league. You can see here they've got a really deep line. Defense has been a concern since Peter left. They don't quite have the depth that they used to have at defense, and that partially has to do with the CPU. I tried to do some things to make them better this year, but keep an eye on Sewell. Sewell is just someone to keep an eye on in general because he is such a great player. They do have Calhoun as well, who's another good player that they got in a trade right before Peter left. And if Peter ever wanted to come back, once we get the league right, I think he could dominate with this roster. The other team to keep an eye on here is Denver. Denver, of course, is Prince. Prince has a fairly decent squad. And it'll be interesting to see. He has Arturio Bates, who was the quarterback for Houston last season. Arturio Bates is definitely one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He is kind of degrading, though, because of his age. But Mojica probably will start just because Mojica is much better than him. But as you can see, there are some depth concerns here. There are some concerns around just like speed. I mean, one of the things that used to define Denver was its wide receivers. Maybe not this season. So this is the reason why I don't think Denver will compete to get into the playoffs. I think it's going to be close, but I think they're not going to make it. The Chiefs are another team to keep an eye on, and if you want to join the league, this is a CPU team. They are pretty good. They got Pharaoh Compton out of Georgia, who continues to be one of the better young quarterbacks. They have Barone, plus they have Seaman. It's a stacked offense. They do have injury issues already starting, but the problem that the Chiefs have had historically is just they don't really have a strong defense, and that will hurt them in the long run. San Diego's not going to enter the conversation. So San Diego just is not good enough really to even spend the time talking about. So if you think about it, Pittsburgh should probably win the North. I'm still going to say Tennessee in the South, but I do think Indianapolis and Houston are going to make a run at Bama. I do think New York is the team to beat just in the AFC in general. Kev's done a great job there. But Miami, New England will be nipping on the heels. And then, of course, Oakland. And then what that means is that you will have two wildcard teams. You'll essentially have to choose between Miami, New England, Indianapolis, Houston, and potentially Cleveland. I do think that ultimately when we talk about the AFC, especially when we start talking about the playoffs and what is the AFC championship going to look like, I think it's really going to come down to the Jets will be there, and it'll either be Pittsburgh, Tennessee, or Miami will be against them. And I do think that the Jets are probably going to make it to the Super Bowl this year, although last year, of course, Pittsburgh did trip Kev up. But it's not the same Pittsburgh team that you saw last season. When we talk about the NFC, I think all roads still lead through Carolina. Charlotte, North Carolina is where the championship resides. It has resided there for now 3 seasons. I don't really see that changing much. This might be the year that you have your best chance of getting past the final boss known as Invisible Witness. He is just one of those coaches who's built a dynasty, and they are really, really, really good. And again, this season, I think that you're going to have to look at them and you're going to have to figure out how you get past them because, as I see it, they are easily the air show and brick wall, if you will. They'll light up the skyboard through the air. They've got Baker. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. They have a line that protects him like no other line does, and then they have a defense that is capable of blanking teams. So you're going to have to deal with that. Now, he does have a little bit more competition, and he might have had more competitions, but one of the coaches unfortunately left, which was Atlanta. If Bill Luciani was here, I think that he would have a little bit more natural competition. But with that being on CPU, I don't don't see Atlanta competing. They have a really good defense. They have Shaw at quarterback, who is just a really good quarterback as well. But I don't see them competing with them on CPU. The team to keep an eye on to compete against them and potentially make it in the playoffs will come out of Tampa Bay. Now, Tampa Bay is not as solid as they were last year, and this is MBB Mets. I think Tampa Bay has kind of taken a step backwards, not forward. You can see here they already have depth issues. It'll be interesting to see how they play this out. The wide receiver core maybe is not fast enough to deal with the defense of Carolina. But, Tampa Bay has made some runs and they've made noises, so it's quite possible they will again this year. New Orleans isn't going to factor into this. If you want a good team on the NFC side, it's probably going to be Atlanta. New Orleans, of course, probably not. As we look into the next division, which is the NFC North, let's go to the NFC East. The North's kind of boring. I'm kidding. It's not. I think really when we talk about this division, it's going to come down to the New York Giants and the Dallas Cowboys. And the reason for that is the Giants have just really turned into something quite special under DWK. And of course you have the Cowboys who are under Templar, and Templar is always someone that you have a hard time dealing with. In fact, I think I play him in week 1. So Dallas is going to have probably one of the most explosive backfields in the whole division. They have O'Malley at quarterback, and he's going to sling it. You got to keep an eye on him. And then on top of that, you will have Reed at running back, who is just going to be able to get outside and do some really cute, really interesting things. I do think that it'll be interesting to see how Philadelphia plays. Philadelphia has a coach again, which is a good thing, and it's a coach that they're really familiar with, which is Don Luckey. I think that he has done a good job in anchoring that defense with Major, and then he's brought in some people to help create a offense that should actually allow for them to compete in the division. I think they're a year away, though, candidly, just because he's having to clean up quite a bit of a mess that preceded him. But as you can see here, you have Colburn, who's a really good running back. You have Lopez, who's a really good running back. You've got a solid line. You've got a good wide receiver core. I think, again, a lot of the things that we've talked about before with depth and speed is going to come back to haunt. Washington is the ultimate kind of dark horse. Udo is a really good coach. It's just he's never really quite got out of Washington what he wants to get out of them. You can see here there are depth issues in the backfield. I think that's going to come back to haunt. His quarterback play is relying on McCulloch, and as much as I give a certain New England quarterback a lot of shade, I'm going to give more shade about McCulloch. McCulloch is just not a good quarterback, but he does have Erickson, who got in a trade with Miami, who is arguably one of the strongest running backs in the league. He's got a decent defense, but again, what's going to hurt him is speed. And that takes us to the team that I think actually is going to win the division, which is the Giants. Again, kudos and hats off to DWK. He has really transformed this team into something special. He's got Perryman at quarterback. He's got Hong if some Perryman goes down. He's got Boudreaux at running back. He's got a solid line. He's got good wide receivers. The only challenge that he has is the same one that a lot of teams do when you compete against Carolina and the West Division teams. One of the things you're going to have is speed, and the challenge that the NFC East as a whole has is they lack the speed to compete against those teams. So it'll be interesting to see how far he can take it. I do think he'll make the playoffs. I don't know how long he's going to stay in it when he runs into either a San Francisco, Arizona, or a Carolina. Which now takes us to the NFC North. Now, NFC North has changed a lot. Green Bay, of course, is still a CPU team. Detroit, we welcome back Brian or Cable. Minnesota now has a coach finally. They've been off and on for a little bit. If you remember correctly, Starfinder was there, but now you have Norsemaniac, and then you have Cotton, who is the coach of the Bills. Probably the one thing that will be normal in this division is that I don't see Chicago and I don't see Green Bay competing for the title. Again, I think Green Bay is built for a strong rushing attack, and they got Laney, who's arguably one of the best running backs in the league. But I don't think that they have enough offensive output to be able to do it. Plus our CPU team, and it's going to kind of make it a little bit harder. Chicago is a very raw team. I think if Cotton continues going down the path he's going down, I think that they may be in good shape. But you can see here, when you look at the other quarterbacks that we've looked at, they're not as strong in many regards in that regard. And also at running back, they are maybe a step slower than the other teams, and they don't have quite the depth that the other teams do, which is why I don't think Chicago will be able to compete in the North. The two teams I think that you're going to be looking at are Detroit and Minnesota. Norsemaniac's a new coach. Don't know much about him. He did make some pretty big noise right out of the get-go. He's got Newman at quarterback. Newman, of course, was a player that Peter at Oakland thought so high of that he tried to trade to get and did. And then Bioego was the one that drafted him. So he's got a really good quarterback right off the chute. And then, of course, Osborne is one of the best running backs. Just really, really strong team that he's put together, which should really compete for that North title and a potential wild card if he doesn't get it. Kaybra is been at Detroit before. He's produced really big results at Detroit. Now he stepped away from the game for a while, and the game has visibly changed since then. So it'll be interesting to see how this works out. But he has McDougal at running back, who is going to help him a lot with that. Plus, he's got McCleary at running back. He's got depth. The only concern I have is that while the record may look good against the NFC North, it's going to be a little bit harder when he starts going out against the AFC and some of the other folks in the NFC. But I do think that Detroit's probably going to win this division. And I'm only basing that off. I know a lot more about Kaybra than I do about Norsemaniac. But I like all the moves that Norsemaniac made, so I do think that these two teams are potentially going to make the playoffs. Now, of course, the last area that we're going to look at is the West. For want of a better word, this is like the elite race, right? You have Stuart at San Francisco. You have Simon at Arizona. Los Angeles and Seattle are both CPU, good teams to take. This is going to be between San Francisco and Arizona. And no shade against the two CPU teams. It's just I don't think that they're going to be able to compete with the moves that both of these two teams made in the offseason. You see here that, again, he has Asa Garcia, who's one of the better quarterbacks. He's got a decent running back core. That's one of the only things I think may hurt him is if he tries to run, he may not have the right components for it. At wide receiver, he's got speed. It's not like elite speed, but it is elite speed. And his defense is solid. So I like a lot of the moves that Stuart made in the offseason around San Francisco. But he's going to compete against Simon in Arizona. Early is a really good quarterback to keep an eye on. Again, worry about the depth issues here, which you'll hear me say a lot. Running back, maybe not as strong. But Arizona plays up to they play at a higher level, skill level, because Simon is a really, really good coach. So I think that in the end, San Francisco is probably going to win this division. Arizona is probably going to come in second. But the key for Stuart is he cannot keep starting slow. Every season for the last few seasons, he started slow and then had to recover. Which is not bad when you're trying to get into the playoffs, but it puts you so close to the margin of not making it that it's probably not the year to do it, because I think Arizona could really take it from them. The other thing to keep an eye on is Seattle is a little bit better than most people give them credit for, and if a human coach were to come in at Seattle, I think that could spell some issues for San Francisco. But right now, I kind of have San Francisco making it. So to kind of wrap this out, because I do realize this has been a pretty long video, but again, it's a season preview. It's going to be long. I think the thing that you just need to keep in mind is when we get into the playoffs, you're going to have Pittsburgh, and it's really going to be a battle of the ground and pound style of Pittsburgh and the aerial assault of New York. Ultimately, the wild cards here, of course, are going to be Tennessee. If Bama gets going, Bama's capable of knocking every single team in his path off. Same thing with Tony. If Tony can get a good firm handle, build the confidence he has in the college game, I think Indianapolis could find themselves in the Super Bowl. Keep an eye on New England. Shark is maybe been down the last few years, but he's not out. And I think that if he can get some solid play out of his team, he'll be doing well. And then of course you also have Soa. Soa has been 1 or 2 plays away from being in the Super Bowl the past 2 seasons, and he definitely is. All the attention always goes to the Jets, but the Dolphins have been very, very consistent the last 2 seasons. So I do think that it's ultimately probably going to be New York that makes it to the championship game. On the opposite side, I think it's going to get really interesting. I really like what Minnesota did and Detroit did. These 2 teams are going to battle it out. Carolina is going to win the South easily. I think the Giants are going to win the East with Dallas at the heels. And then it's going to be Arizona and San Francisco going at it, with San Francisco probably winning it. If Stuart can start fast and hold it, I think Stuart is one of the few teams that probably can beat Carolina. And then the other one is potentially New York and Minnesota. I think Detroit is a very big wild card because if Kaybra gets his confidence around that team, we've already seen what Detroit can do in the past when he had it, because he was consistently getting them into the playoffs and consistently moving them towards a championship game. So in the end, I think it's going to be Carolina, New York, and I hate to say it, I think Carolina's going to win it again. Invisible has just done a very, very good job of making this team just what it is. He, year in and year out, just continues to build this team into the really big powerhouse that it is. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. Of course, it begins tonight. And if you have any questions for me, definitely let me know. If you have your own predictions and you're part of this league, definitely let me know. I personally would love to see Kev win it, because I think he's put in all of the work to build that team out, kind of like DWK has with the other New York team. But I worry that Carolina just didn't get weaker. They got stronger, and they're already really, really strong. Do you think that the 49ers are going to get past Carolina? Do you think that this is another year where Pittsburgh makes it to the finals? Or is it the year where we have a total shock and we see someone like Indianapolis or Buffalo make a run? If you like this video, definitely just let me know. Let me know your thoughts about my predictions and just other things you'd like to see. And we will definitely see you around. Have a great night.